Hey everyone, this is the I'll Tell You in a Minute playlist introduction video. So I'll take a gearhead topic and give you the basic information to learn about it in 60 seconds or less. So it could be auto manufacturer, motorcycle manufacturer, maybe I'll tell you how a carburetor works, famous gearhead people, race car drivers, races, racetracks, something like that. Some automotive or gasoline powered topic, you name it. Gears and grease and gasoline, that type of stuff. You'll learn about it in 60 seconds or less. So make sure you're subscribed and hit all the notification stuff that they normally tell you to do. I don't know. And we'll go from there and try and learn something together. Gas, the motorcycle manufacturer, started in 1985 in Spain. They made trials motorcycles, the ones without seats usually, and they later made other dirt bikes and quads. They were taken over in 2014 and merged with OSA, which was sold in 2019 to KTM. This means they're basically just red KTM bikes now, just like Husqvarna's currently just white and blue KTMs. Raiju is now producing the old gas models, so if you don't want a KTM, that's where you need to look. Who owns what? 14 automotive companies control 54 different brands, so here we go. Ford has Lincoln Motor Company, Daimler has Mercedes-Benz and Smart, FCA has Fiat, which is Alfa Romeo Lancia, Maserati, then Chrysler, which is Ram Dodge Jeep. Nissan has Infiniti and Datsun, Honda has Acura, PSA has DS Automobiles, Peugeot, and Citroën, BMW Group has Rolls-Royce, BMW Mini, Geely has London Taxi Company and Volvo, Toyota has Daihatsu and Lexus, Tata has Land Rover, Jaguar, and Tata Motors, Renault has Dacia and Samsung, Hyundai has Kia, Volkswagen Group has Lamborghini, Volkswagen, Porsche, Bentley, Bugatti, Skoda, Seat, and Audi. General Motors has Chevrolet, Holden, Vauxhall, Cadillac, Opel, GMC, Wuling Motors, Baojun, and Buick. And the rabbit hole goes even deeper than that because I didn't include things like Ducati Motorcycles, which is under Lamborghini, which is under VW Group, and I didn't include that because I'm running out of time for a 1-minute video. Husaberg is a motorcycle manufacturer that made dirt bikes and supermoto bikes. They started in 1988 in Austria. They were owned by Cagiva and Husqvarna at one point in time, but ended up under KTM in 1995. Husaberg was doing well on the track, they just couldn't sell them. A slogan you might know as a KTM slogan, "Ready to Race," was actually a Husaberg slogan first, but KTM adopted it. Husqvarna started in 1903 in Sweden, and they made some of the first street motorcycles, but are now known as yellow and blue KTM bikes. Mostly off-road stuff, but a couple of street bikes and adventure traveling bikes as well. In 1987, just the motorcycle portion of Husqvarna was sold to Cagiva, and then later MV Agusta. You might know Husqvarna also makes lawn equipment. In 1995, they were purchased by KTM along with Husaberg, and in 2007, they were purchased by BMW but sold back to the KTM group in 2013. KTM started in 1953 by building motorcycles with Rotax engines. They're originally from Austria. At one point, Pure Mobility owned the majority share, and Bajaj Auto owns another 49%. What they made: off-road and racing motorcycles, the Expo car, and more recently on-road adventure motorcycles. There was a lot of business name changes over the years, but basically KTM owns Husaberg and Husqvarna, just the motorcycle part, and WP Suspension, which stands for White Power Suspension, but it hasn't been called that since 1991. They were a Dutch company before KTM took over operations in 1997. If you watch Motocross, Dakar Rally, Supercross, MotoGP, or Hard Enduro, you will see a KTM bike competing. Raiju Motorcycles started in 1934 making bicycle accessories. They were a Spanish company. In 1947, they went into mopeds, and in 2020, they purchased the rights to gas off-road models and made those bikes under the Raiju name, while KTM bought the right to the gas name and stuck it on KTM motorcycles. Cagiva started in 1950 in Italy. They made off-road and race motorcycles for Dakar and Grand Prix racing. They used Ducati and Mariachi Harley engines in some of their bikes. They owned Ducati at one point and bought the Moto Morini and Husqvarna brands while under the MV Agusta parent company. They eventually sold Ducati and Moto Morini and restructured as MV Agusta being the main brand, with Cagiva and Husqvarna under that. Harley bought and sold MV Agusta, which ended up being bought by the son of the founder, Claudio Castiglione. They don't make bikes anymore, but MV Agusta, the parent company, still does. OSA is a Spanish motorcycle company that started in 1924 and ran until 1982, and then again from 2010 to 2015 under Gas. They made trials, motocross, and enduro bikes. They started with movie projectors and then eventually made two-stroke engines before moving into motorcycles. They road raced until the 1970 season when Santiago Herrero died during the Isle of Man TT, which resulted in OSA withdrawing completely from road racing of all types. A bad dealer network, a 1977 worker strike, and Japanese bikes becoming more available crippled and eventually ended the brand. Bajaj Auto Group was founded in 1945, which is a multinational automotive manufacturer based in India. They make motorcycles, scooters, and rickshaws. They're the third largest manufacturer of motorcycles in the world and the second largest in India. They've worked with both Kawasaki and Triumph. Bajaj owns 49% of KTM as of this video posting. They produce their own Bajaj motorcycles and export a ton of them around the world. They own about 40 smaller companies in other various manufacturing fields, in addition to their motorcycle production. Ducati is an Italian motorcycle manufacturer that was run from 1926 to 1950 by the original Ducati family and is still in production today. They started with radio components and moved on to bicycles and motorcycles, famous today for high-performance motorcycles for street and track, trellis frames, and dry clutches. Some also feature desmodromic valves, which is a valve that is both opened and closed with a cam without the use of springs. They were owned by the government from 1950 to 1978, 78 to 85 the VM Group, 85 to 1996 by Cagiva, 96 to 2005 by the Texas Pacific Group, 05 to 08 Invest Industrial Holdings SPA, 8 to 12 was Performance Motorcycles SPA, and it's currently owned by Lamborghini, which is Audi, which is a Volkswagen group. Ferruccio Lamborghini made tractors initially, but started his Italian car company in 1963 to compete with Ferrari. They are sometimes referred to as poster cars since many kids and gearheads put them up on their wall. They feature mid-engine drivetrains and more aggressive angular styling than their rival Ferrari. Lambo uses a fighting bull on their logo while Ferrari uses a prancing horse. They had a rough time in the 70s and ended up being owned by Chrysler before being tossed around a while and ending up under Volkswagen Group in 98. Lamborghini has done several different styles of racing from the start and has also been involved in powerboat racing. There were some Lambo motorcycles in the mid-80s, but they were basically just a Kawasaki GP-Z1000 with different wheels. They own Ducati right now, and you can pay an extra $43,000 on top of a $27,000 Street Fighter V4S just to get custom wheels, tail, and a few Lambo stickers. Maybe some custom exhaust, but it has the same performance specs as a standard bike. The beginnings of this German brand are a little complex, but Horsch, Audi Work, DKW, and Wanderer combined to make Auto Union in 1932, and Audi started in 1965 when Auto Union was acquired by Volkswagen Group from Daimler-Benz. They later merged in NSU Motorwerken in 1969. The four rings represent the four car companies that came together to create Auto Union. Their slogan is being ahead through technology, and they are one of the best-selling luxury vehicle brands in the world. Audi is probably best known for their Quattro drive system, which originated out of rally racing. The white and yellow A2 and S1 models were a force to be reckoned with in World Rallycross events. Audi also races touring cars, endurance, and Le Mans. Volkswagen Group is a German company that, as of 2023, consists of Audi, Bentley, Cupra, Jetta, the brand, not the car, Lamborghini, Porsche, Seat, Skoda, Volkswagen, Ducati, Volkswagen Commercial Vehicles, Navistar, MAN, Scania, and Volkswagen Truck and Bus, and over 300 other subsidiary companies. Some of that will be in future episodes. Volkswagen, just the brand, not the group, started in 1937 by the German Labor Front under the Nazi Party, but became a worldwide brand after World War II. Best known for the Beetle, which was in production from 1938 to 2003, and 21.5 million cars. And then there's a new Beetle, which was from 97 to 2011, and the third generation Beetle was 2011 to 19. No longer produced, but there were around 23 million total Beetles produced from the simple air-cooled to the original latest modern version. Ferrari was started in Maranello, Italy by Enzo Ferrari in 1939 and started producing cars in 1947. From 63 to 2014, it was a subsidiary of Fiat until it became its own company again. Ferrari makes only high-performance automobiles, and Scuderia Ferrari is Formula One's oldest and most successful team. They have more racing wins than I can tell you about in this video format. Enzo started as a salesman and race driver for Alfa Romeo, but after some business disagreements started his own company and made his own cars. During World War II, they produced aircraft engines and machine tools until they got bombed into the ground in 1944. Enzo was noted for saying that they were a race team that sold cars to finance the racing. Ferrari cars are easy to spot with their famous yellow prancing pony badges and very often red, yellow, or white paint. Just be careful if you get one, because a number of influencers have gotten in legal trouble for their behavior and modifications on the cars and how it reflects on Ferrari. Formerly known as the Chrysler Corporation, they currently sell Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Chrysler, and SRT Mopar names. Originally started in 1925 from the failed Maxwell Motor Company, later they were absorbed into Daimler-Benz for a while before going out on their own again, and then they were acquired by Fiat to create Fiat Chrysler Automobiles, or FCA, in 2014. It's now under Stellantis, which was FCA and Peugeot combining in 2021. Way back in the 1920s, Walter Chrysler acquired Fargo Trucks and the Dodge Brothers Company, and then created Plymouth and DeSoto. Chrysler worked with Mitsubishi in the 80s, bought AMC in 87, which is how they got the Jeep and Eagle brands. Today they are known for high-horsepower Hellcat-powered muscle cars, and they are responsible for creating the minivan with the Caravan and Voyager, which sort of saved the company at one point. MV Agusta started in 1945 in Italy. They started making aircraft, but eventually diversified and produced motorcycles as well. They made road racing motorcycles and later on road legal bikes. The first production transverse four-cylinder motorcycle was an MV Agusta in 1965. Henderson and Indian had made longitudinal four-cylinders as far back as 1912. The F4R 312 was the first European motorcycle to break the so-called gentleman's agreement for motorcycle top speed, but MV Agusta was not known to have agreed to this in the first place. In the late 1990s, Japanese motorcycle manufacturers were nearing 200 miles an hour on their stock street bikes. European legislation was about to ban importing these bikes, so to stop that and avoid negative press, most manufacturers agreed to limit the top speed of production bikes to 300 kilometers an hour or 186 miles per hour. The 99 Hayabusa was left as king of the hill, and after that, you couldn't find out the top speed of these high-end bikes without tampering with the electronics. Honda announced they wouldn't exceed this limit, but Kawasaki and Suzuki wouldn't comment on it. BMW, it was alleged, but there's no proof. MV Agusta was the first to break this unofficial agreement with their 2007 F4R 312. 312 for its claimed max top speed in kilometers. Today you can't buy a street-legal stock bike that goes over 186 miles per hour without modification, other than possibly a BMW 1000RR or a Ducati Panigale R. Moto Morini started in 1937 in Italy, where they made small racing motorcycles and three-wheeled vehicles. After World War II, they made some road bikes. They were owned by Cagiva in the 1980s and Texas Pacific Group in the 90s. They made some motorcycles in the 2000s after being purchased by Marini Franco Motori SPA, but it was liquidated in 2010. Currently owned by Jiangning Vehicle Group. I'm sure I butchered that. They produce a couple of bikes that are adventure scrambler styled, but it's all badge engineering. They're using copies of other engines, and it's not really Moto Morini. It's Chinese bikes with a badge slapped on them. Badge engineering is the practice of taking one model vehicle and using its basic form across multiple makes, usually with very minimal changes, to decrease production costs and maximize profit. Examples: a Chevy Suburban is relatively cheap, a GMC Yukon XL is a step up and you pay extra. Another step up above that is a Cadillac Escalade ESV, which is a luxury vehicle, and you pay even more, even though they're all just a Suburban underneath. In the motorcycle world, Indian motorcycles back in the day, in the 40s and 50s, sold British bikes with an Indian badge on them. Today, Moto Morini does that with Chinese bikes instead of the Italian bikes where they came from. There is also joint ventures where automakers pool resources to create something like the Chrysler Town & Country or Dodge Caravan or Volkswagen Rutan or Lancia Voyager, which is all the same vehicle. Indian motorcycles had a turbulent history from its start in 1901. Originally a bicycle company that moved into motorcycles, like most companies, it made different products during World War I and World War II. Easily recognizable for their long sweeping fenders and solid side skirts, they are similar to Harley's, which was their main competitor until 1953 when the original company folded. Brockhouse Engineering got the rights to the name for about 7 years and sold rebadged British bikes. Then Associated Motorcycles had it for 3 years before dropping it to focus on Norton and Matchless. After that, the legal side of it got hazy until about 1999 for a very limited run of bikes powered by S&S engines until 2011 when Polaris took it over and dropped their Victory brand in 2017 to focus solely on Indian. The Henderson brothers started Henderson Motorcycle Company in 1911 in Detroit. Their first motorcycle featured an inline four-cylinder placed inline with the frame, which is 90 degrees from what you know like sport bikes to be today. This and a long wheelbase came to be their signature style. In 1917, they were sold to Schwinn Bicycles and became a division of Excelsior, which was also under Schwinn and moved to Chicago. They held 2 records that year, the 24-hour speed record of 48 miles an hour covering 1,154 miles at Ascot Park, and they broke the Cannonball Baker record of 1915 by setting a blazing time of 7 days, 16 hours, 15 minutes. Fast considering most of the roads are basically dirt trails at the time. They made motorcycles until 1931 when they chose to focus on Schwinn bicycles despite a full order book for motorcycles because of the uncertain future due to the Great Depression. Excelsior was a motorcycle manufacturer and supply company in Chicago from 1907 to 1937. Purchased by Schwinn in 1912, it was the first motorcycle to be clocked at an official speed of 100 miles an hour. In 1917, Henderson Motorcycles was purchased and made a division of Excelsior under Schwinn. Both Henderson and Excelsior were stopped in 1931 to help future-proof Schwinn against the Great Depression, even though they were third in motorcycle production behind Indian and Harley, and Henderson had a full order book of motorcycles that year. Excelsior Henderson, the combined name, not the individual companies, but Excelsior and Henderson were motorcycle manufacturers in the 19-teens to early 1930s in the United States. Both were purchased in the teens by Schwinn Bicycles and stopped in 1931 to sustain the bicycle division through the Great Depression. Excelsior Henderson, as one entity, was a company founded originally as Hanlon Manufacturing Company in 1993 in Burnsville, Minnesota. It was just a property rights deal as the companies had been closed for over 60 years at that point in time. Hanlon manufactured V-twin motorcycles in 1999 in Belle Plaine, Minnesota. They were called the Super X like the old bikes used to be called. They were in for $100 million and couldn't see profitability, so they were sold to an investment group which restructured and no longer exist. Huge flop, not many of these bikes left in existence, and in 2020 Bajaj bought the intellectual property rights, but nothing has been done with them so far. Zhongneng Vehicle Company, or as it's better known now, Znen, Z-N-E-N. I don't know how to pronounce any of that. I had a go of it. Anyway, they started in 1988 in China, and they make gas and electric motorcycles and mopeds. They started in appliance components and didn't start on power sports until 1996. They have legal issues with Piaggio due to copyright infringement, and they are continuing those lawsuits currently as of this video. Brands they make are Fasti Motorcycle, Moto Marini, which used to be a separate Italian company, Modern Electric Vehicle Technology, and Znen Motor. So the copyright issues they have with Piaggio is due to the Vespa scooter and Znen making one incredibly similar in looks to it. Bentley is an English luxury auto manufacturer that started in 1919 by W.O. Bentley on the same day as the Paris Peace Conference that helped end World War I. They were acquired by Rolls-Royce in 1931, Vickers in 1980, and has been owned by Volkswagen Group since 1998 and under the Audi brand arm since 2022. Like most early car makers, they did a lot of racing, including the Indy 500 and the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Most early Bentley cars and other high-end cars of the time, like Rolls-Royce, did not usually come as complete cars. They made a rolling chassis and someone else would build the body, sometimes called a coach builder. In the late 40s, they started sending cars out with pressed steel bodies. In the 70s, Bentley sales were so bad they almost gave up on the brand, but instead focused on their high-performance history and brought back the brand from the brink. They are a very low-volume production manufacturer today, making only 10,600 vehicles in 2020. Jetta, the brand, not the Volkswagen sedan, although Jetta is part of the Volkswagen Group. We're not talking about the car. Jetta as a brand is a joint venture with FAW Group, a Chinese state-owned auto manufacturer. FAW has also done a joint venture with Toyota. Jetta makes the VA3, which is basically a Volkswagen Jetta with some small bodywork changes. And there are two small SUVs, the VS5 and the VS7. These cars are only for the Chinese market, and in 2020 they sold around 68,000 cars. Porsche, or Porsche, whichever, I'm not here to debate that. They started in 1931 as part of Volkswagen. They made the Beetle as a car for the people. They also built a lot of vehicles and tanks for World War II. 2009 they merged with Volkswagen Group and included Audi and Lamborghini as subsidiaries. After World War II they focused on performance vehicles and racing. Their racing history will in no way fit into this 1-minute format video style, but they have done all sorts of racing from Cup Series to Le Mans prototypes and everything in between. They are best known for their performance rear-engine cars like the 911, 930, and other 900 series number cars. SEAT. I think that's right, but I'm an American and we don't really get them over here, so give me a break. SEAT is an acronym for Spanish Touring Automobiles Company, started in 1950 and sold to Volkswagen Group in 1986. It's rumored to be rebadged or absorbed under Cupra soon, which is also another Volkswagen brand. They were involved in racing, mostly FIA rally cars, starting in the 1970s, and worked with Fiat around that same time as well. In the 2000s, they also raced touring cars. They're still making SEAT cars as of 2023, with Cupra still as a separate brand. Skoda started in the Czech Republic in 1859, originally making firearms and bicycles. Cars started in 1925, and it eventually ended up under the Volkswagen Group in 1991. During World War II, they made military vehicles for Germany until they were bombed into oblivion in 1945. They rebuilt after the war and made passenger cars. After communism fell with the Velvet Revolution, the major auto manufacturers of the world expressed interest in buying the company. Renault almost got it, but it would have likely discontinued the brand. Volkswagen ended up winning the offer instead. They were successful in rally championships in recent years, and they set a world speed record at Bonneville Salt Flats for a production car with an engine up to 2 liters, hitting 227 miles per hour with a 2011 Octavia VRS.